একটু সেটেল করে দেন সবাই। নমস্কার, শুভ সন্ধ্যা, শুভ মহাষ্টমী। Can we find some chairs for them, please? Tanya, can we find some chairs for the guests, please?
So my panelists want English. Let's see what the audience wants.
I'll just do a bit of a 2-minute
নমস্কার, আমরা সবাই বসেছেন। আমরা মোটামুটি আর 1 মিনিটের ইভেন্টটা শুরু করবো, তো কাইন্ডলি একটু সবাই বসে পড়ুন। What a wonderful evening. I hope people are enjoying. কেউ হাতটা তো নাড়াচ্ছে না।
মহাষ্টমী দর্শকগণ যারা এসেছেন, আমাদের এই প্রোগ্রামটা এখনই শুরু হবে, বাট তার আগে একটু আমাদের গলা শুনতে চাই। বলো দুর্গা মাইকে, বলো দুর্গা মাইকে, বলো দুর্গা মাইকে।
থ্যাংক ইউ সুজন। সো আমরা শুরু করি। প্রথমে একটু বাংলা দিয়ে শুরু করছি, তারপরে আমরা ইংরেজি চলে যাবো। পাওয়াই দুর্গোৎসবের ইন্ট্রোডাকশনটা খুব একটা দেওয়ার দরকার নেই। দেশের ফ্যাক্ট দ্যাট আপনারা এরকমভাবে সবাই এসছেন, আবার পুজো এত ভালোবাসেন, দূর থেকে এদিক ওদিক থেকে সবাই এসছেন। ইনফ্যাক্ট বম্বের বাইরে থেকে অনেকে আসে আমার পুজো দেখতে। সো থ্যাংক ইউ। তো এই পুজোর মধ্যে এত বড় উৎসবের মধ্যে আমরা কী করছি? এখানে করে স্টেজ বানিয়ে 4-5 জন লোক বসে আছে, ওরা কী করবে, কী বলবে? আমাদের একটা ইচ্ছা প্রথম থেকে, যখন থেকে আমরা পুজো শুরু করেছি, যে যখন আমরা পুজো করছি, পুজোর মাঝখানে কিছু সোশ্যালি রেলেভেন্ট ডিসকাশন আমরা করতে চাই। আমাদের সমাজে অনেক রকমের লোক আছে, সমাজে অনেক রকমের শ্রেণীতে অনেক রকমের লোকে এরকম উৎসবের মধ্যে পার্টিসিপেট করতে পারে না। তাদের ব্যাপারে একটা ছোট্ট কথা। আর তার সাথে আমাদের পাওয়াই বেঙ্গলি ওয়েলফেয়ার অ্যাসোসিয়েশন দুর্গাপুজো যে দেখছেন, তাছাড়াও ভিতরে আমরা অনেক কাজকর্ম করি সোশ্যাল ওয়ার্ক নিয়ে, সেটার ব্যাপারে আমরা কথা বলবো। আর তার সাথে আমাদের মিশন স্বয়ংসিদ্ধা বলে একটা অ্যাসোসিয়েশন আছে, এখানে আমাদের এই গ্রাউন্ডে আছে, তার ব্যাপারে কথা বলার। সো আমরা একটু ইংরেজি চলে যাই, কারণ আমাদের প্যানেলিস্ট কিছু নন বেঙ্গলি, সো I'd like to kind of keep them included in the discussion. Thank you for everybody for joining. As I said in Bengali, this occasion, this Durga Pujo, doesn't need much introductions. We've been there for the last so many years. We've tried to constantly improve on what we do, and I hope the audience, the people who come and do the darshan, like it. Along with all of this, as we move along with the Pujo, our primary objective of Powai Bengali Welfare Association is to be able to look at and talk and discuss things which are socially relevant, things which matter, things where we should not turn a blind eye, especially in situations like a big utsav, a big celebration like this. That's been the purpose in which why we want to have this quick discussion. It's not going to be for too long. It's going to be about 1.5 hours. And I need your attention. I need your patience as well. Along with Durga Puja that we do every year, we make sure that people who are underprivileged also find a place in this platform. To name a few, you probably will realize that there's a bunch of people sitting in the corner on the right of the mandap, or actually to my right, but to your left, are people who are from various associations. There's a stall which is from an association of Calcutta, which is called the Blind Persons Association. If you'd like, they'll give you a live demo of the Braille. There are a couple of friends from the LGBTQ community who are also put up their stalls and their products. Please visit them. Along with that, we also have Mission Swayamsiddha. Coming back to Powai Bengali Welfare Association, over the years, we've done a whole lot of work which is socially relevant. We started off with a little bit of work around the locality, which spun off to bigger initiatives around the state of Maharashtra, where we adopted a couple of schools. We worked with a couple of hospitals. We looked at providing critical medical equipment. And we also segued into things like the environment. The environment and sustainability, just a small example of what we do here. As we speak, sustainability in action. The top of the auditorium that you see on my left is completely lined with solar panels. The entire nut moncho that you see is powered by solar power. I hope we can do many such things. We can bring back, we can create a better world for everybody to live in. I'll not take much more time for the evening today, and let me kind of get straight into the panel discussions. Let me begin with my first panelist. My first panelist, Mr. Rajiv Gupta from Policy Bazaar. He's the president of Policy Bazaar. I know he's a guru in fintech. He's been in the banking and financial services for many decades now. Welcome on stage, sir. Next, let me introduce Mr. Sudipto Roy. Sudipto Roy is the CEO of L&T Finance. He's a seasoned consumer bank and fintech professional. Have done a lot of work in the Asia subcontinent, sir. Expert in consumer banking, finance, and a startup specialist as well. Well, he's schooled in West Bengal, and he's colleged in places around West Bengal. And what we think is he's probably a Sholowana Bengali. So thank you with us. Gels well with the gathering today. Thank you for joining. Next on my panel, Mr. Sanjeev Mehta. I must interrupt and say you have a very impressive LinkedIn page. Or I'd say it's very inspiring as a LinkedIn page. And same for you, sir. I learned a lot, and it did, provoke a couple of good thoughts. Thank you for putting all those thoughts there. Mr. Sanjeev Mehta is a country leader enterprise sales for AMD India. Mr. Mehta flew in from Gurgaon, especially for this event. A big clap for Mr. Mehta.
Thank you.
Prior to AMD, Mr. Mehta has spent some time in other tech companies like HP, and has also been expert in startups. He offers time for teaching and volunteering, has been a speaker with CNBC, TEDx, and he is a sports enthusiast. Couldn't be a better match for this evening, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
The next on my panel is Mr. Rahul Sengupta. He is a thoroughbred advertising professional. Again, more than a couple of decades in the agency, in the ad world. Worked in a couple of agencies. He's been the national director for PBWA and Dentsu. In 2012, he ventured into films. He has currently a couple of a film and a serial under his belt. I'll not break the name of the movie now. I'll leave it for Mr. Mazumdar. Okay. So Rahul is the co-author of the movie Ghumar. So we will get to hear some of the thoughts that went behind making this movie, Rahul. Rahul is, again, a thoroughbred Bengali. Someone who studied economics in West Bengal can be a different kind of a person. So, we hope to see some of that coming through. He's done his MBA from Delhi. He's a keen language enthusiast as well, and he speaks German, Spanish, and Italian very fluently. And he tells me he's come back from a cricket match. So, yeah, thank you again, and thank you for joining this lovely discussion, Divine Innings. And last but definitely not the least, let me introduce you to the moderator of this evening, Mr. Boria Mazumdar. Boria needs no introductions to cricket fans and sports enthusiasts. Thank you, Boria, for coming. Boria is what we call a cricket historian. Again, schooled and colleged in West Bengal, in Kolkata. Then when he went on to kind of do his, he's a Rhodes Scholar from Oxford University, and did his doctorate in cricket. Not somebody you probably see or hear or meet in the passing. He has extremely, he's worked in a very close quarters with the cricket fraternity. And I'm certain some of the vibration is going to come through today. So thank you, Boria, for coming in. Before I pass on this discussion, we are going to have this discussion primarily in English, but the panelists are more welcome to choose their language. You can go to Hindi, Bengali, or English. So thank you. Over to you, Boria.
Thank you very much. I've done this for a living. I mean, Onushthan conduct kori, main aise programs host karta hu, but aise audience, in the middle of a Durga Pujo, behind us is Ma Durga. I've never done this. I've never done this, and I don't think any of my panelists have done this. So this is quite a first for me as well. I'm starting out in English because most of my panelists insisted that they want questions in English, but I will go to Bangla. Ami Banglaয় bolbo, ami Hindite bolbo. Let me start setting the tone. I've been given 5 minutes to set the tone, so I'll take my 5 minutes. First, Joy Didi was talking to us about Mission Swayam Siddha, which is very close to this particular organization, this organization which is doing this incredible Durga Pujo. So what is Mission Swayam Siddha in one sentence? Mission Swayam Siddha is about empowerment. Underprivileged mohiladerke empower kore, taderke giving them a new life. That's what it is about, we were told in the last 3 minutes. And that brings me to sport. What does sport do? হ্যাঁ আমরা ক্রিকেট নিয়ে কথা বলবো हम लोग क्रिकेट के बारे में बात करेंगे stories, of course we'll share stories, but let me start with Mission Swayam Siddha and sport. She was telling us inside just about 5 minutes back that a lot of these women who are now part of Mission Swayam Siddha, 180 to be specific, had no life. During COVID, they started making newspaper bags which have now moved from Powai to Paris, and they've started making handicrafts. Ladies and gentlemen, that's empowerment, right? Now come to sport. What does sport do? I will give you one example, and not from cricket. Absolutely not from cricket. Just about a week back, all of us were celebrating 107 medals at the Asian Games. And one team that did not win a medal is the Indian women's rugby team. And why am I starting with this? I'm starting with this for a reason. After the Indian women's rugby team lost, I saw a lot of social media posts. আমি অনেকগুলো সোশ্যাল মিডিয়া পোস্ট দেখেছিলাম এদেরকে ক্রিটিসাইজ করে। এখানেই প্রশ্ন, যেরকম মিশন স্বয়ং সিদ্ধা কিছু বছর আগে, and I will tell you one story. এই মেয়েটির নাম হলো হুপি মাঝি. Her name is Hupi Majhi. She comes from an underprivileged tribal background in Odisha. In her village, not a single girl, and I can see women decked up, beautiful, in saris, in Western attire, in Indian attire. In her village, not a single girl was allowed to wear shorts. Not one. Not even one girl. When she started playing rugby, her father told us, you're a disgrace to the family. You're an absolute disgrace to the family. তাকে ধরে মারাও হয়. She was hit. She was told, you are not playing sport. She said, fair enough. আমার বাবা মা তো কোনোদিন গ্রাম থেকে বেরোবেন না. ये लोग तो कभी गांव के बाहर आएंगे नहीं. So they will not know if I go to the tribal school and continue playing rugby. So she continued. The problem was, when she got selected to play for India, when she got selected, her photograph came out in the newspapers. The moment her photograph came out in the newspapers, her father saw it again, and he was livid with her, saying, what on earth have you been doing? Now, her father told her, you will be locked up in the house, you are not going out. And this is where the connection with Mission Swayam Siddha. She all of a sudden came and said, you know, Baba, the government of Odisha has announced a cash award of 10 lakh rupees for every player who plays for India. And her father was like, what? Kya bola aapne? কি বললেন আপনি? কি বললে তুমি? 10 lakh taka, 10 lakh rupees. In our family, in the last 3 generations, people have not earned 10 lakh rupees. What are you talking about, 10 lakh rupees? She said, yes, that's what I'm being paid. Next day, 10 lakh rupees gets transferred into her account. The father holds the girl, Hupi Majhi, by her hand, takes her around the whole village and says, now the whole village of girls will play rugby. Mission Swayam Siddha. And that is what sport does. That's why we are doing this evening. It is not simply about us 5 people talking nonsense when you can actually go and see the goddess and watch India play. We are not here without a purpose. Second story before I go to Rajiv. আমি স্পোর্ট নিয়ে কথা বললেই লোকে আমায় ক্রিকেট নিয়ে কথা বলতে বলে, আর বম্বেতে এসে ক্রিকেট নিয়ে কথা বললে, মুম্বাইতে সচিনকে নিয়ে না কথা বললে, whose biography, autobiography I've co-written, it's perhaps wrong. Now Sachin Tendulkar মানেই 100টা international 100, 33,000 international runs, right? 33,000 runs, 100 international hundreds, that's Tendulkar. No, absolutely not. Now Tendulkar and I, we had gone to this disability clinic in Chennai. Disability clinic in Chennai, where there were these kids, and again, something that you guys do, you all show equality and sensitivity. You all do the third gender, you all do a lot of other work I was seeing. So both of us went to this disability clinic, and there was this young boy, age 11, who was sitting right in front. Now this boy had 80% cerebral palsy. 80%, and had never stood up, never. He had never ever stood up in his life and walked. कभी उसने खड़ा होकर चला नहीं, कभी नहीं, कोनो दिन उठे दाঁড়িয়ে হাঁটেনি. So তেন্ডুলকারকে যখন তার টিচার ইন্ট্রোডিউস করেছে, so Sachin got emotional and said, oh, you know what, if you play cricket with me, I will give you a bat. And he realized, what have I said? What have I said? Because this boy has never ever stood up, leave alone walk. The next couple of minutes, a bat and 2 tennis balls were brought out. And ladies and gentlemen, for the only time in that boy's life, he stood up and played 2 balls of tennis ball cricket with Tendulkar. I keep telling Sachin, more than the 33,000 international runs, more than the 100 international hundreds, this is what sport does. This is what this organization is trying to do this evening. That's why we are here. All of you, welcome. A formal welcome. What we had done was, we had actually sent out a call to our audience, and I have been sent quite a few questions for my panelists. Let me start with some of them. I'll keep talking, I'll keep telling stories, but let me start with some of these questions, and I will keep telling you more. I apologize that Rajiv's lost his voice, but I'll still quiz him on a couple of questions. Rajiv, try and give me an answer, whatever you can. The first question, and this is a straight one. This is a question which had been given by one of our audience members. What were your life lessons from sport, especially cricket, and how did you take that to the boardroom? Captaincy, spot decisions, crisis management, you know, some of these things that we do in the corporate boardroom, very similar to cricket. Rajiv.
First of all, good evening to all of you. I'm sorry, I can't speak.
You know, we don't want to push him. We don't want to push you. If you can give me an answer, fair enough. Otherwise, I mean, it's okay. Pardon me?
I can't speak.
Leave it. It's okay. It's okay. Just be there. Anybody else wants to take that particular question? You want to take it, Sanjeev?
Yeah, I can
Yeah, go
take
for
that. I think sports gets, for me, the most important is the discipline, right? The discipline of what I do on daily basis, what I've been continuously doing that. The discipline brings in within the family, outside, with people whom I engage with, right? It gets me to be more agile, more active. And with growing age, right, you want to continue, doing something good for yourself and also for the society and for the community, right? Unless you don't have a discipline, and then discipline could be a financial discipline, it could be your health discipline, it could be your professional discipline, it could be any kind of discipline. But when you are done that, it really gets you to do what you want to do for yourself and for the community. So I think for me, one of the biggest is discipline, while there are more, which is leadership and the teamwork, there are a lot of other areas as well, but I believe discipline is one of the biggest, because that's where you remain fit and are capable of doing things.
Discipline is what he's talking about, and spot on, spot on. I mean, how many cheat meals has Virat Kohli had in 4 years? Anybody? How many cheat meals has Virat Kohli had in 4 years? Yes, sir. 1. Okay, 1. None. Close. Anybody? Okay, 1 and none. Taking from Sanjeev, it's actually the middle of that. After he scored a double 100 here at the Wankhede, he wanted to have a burger. Then he said, "Arey, should I have a burger?" Then he threw away the top part of the bun and had the rest of the chicken burger. So actually the answer is half. 4 years, half a cheat meal. Discipline for you. Sanjeev, good answer. what Rajiv has done, is he's actually written out the answer for me. I'll read it out. Leadership. Learn from captaincy, emphasizing the importance of leading by example and motivating a team. Teamwork, understanding the significance of collaboration and synergy among team members. Effective communication, clear and concise communication, crucial for conveying ideas and strategies. Quick decision making, spot decisions in sport, taught the value of making timely choices even under pressure. And crisis management, handling high-stress situations with composure and finding solutions effectively. That's Rajiv Gupta. That's quite a bit. You know, he should have just passed it. He took the time to write it out. That's what commitment is all about. Thank you very much. Thank you. The next one, actually it is for you, Sanjeev. Just as a kind of a follow-up. How do you see sport and cricket? And আজকে আপনারা যতজন এসছেন এখানে, I can actually see heads till the very end. How many of you are Hindus? How many of you are Muslims? How many of you are what religion? Do we really care? Who the hell cares? At 9 o'clock news television, Toxic India makes an appearance every night. In Powai here at this Durga Pujo, my idea of secular India has shown itself in front of me. This is what my idea of India is, ladies and gentlemen. That's my question, Sanjeev. Talk to me about it. I mean, cricket, when you think of it as a sport, unites a country like India as a social stimulant and as a unifier. Talk to me.
No, I think no better example than Dada, right? The kind of passion and the self-respect that he brought to the entire team and to the country, not just by waving that shirt, but the confidence that it brings onto every individual, the team player, saying that we can do it, right? And that is what it is. And we as an Indian, I strongly believe that we have challenged so many status quo, right? Today, world is looking upon us in terms of what India is doing, right? And from sports perspective, I think Dada did that for us. And then later on, Dhoni brought that to us. One of the examples that I remember, and maybe correct me on that, you know, when we were taking some big wickets in Australia, Dhoni said, it's okay. Don't treat them like gods and do that part, right? You're doing your job, you're doing it well, just play with a lot of passion, right? And what it did was it not only brought the team together, it also brought the entire country together. And the kind of passion that we see in so many players that we have today is absolutely phenomenal, right? Everybody's there for each other to kind of build up that unity, to be there to win, right? To have fun, to create that entertainment that you're looking at, right? So there's so many aspects to the sports, especially cricket being such a huge game for us in India. It just brings about the best in every individual.
Good answer, good answer. And I mean, I expected when Shaurabda told me that, and Shantanu told me that the theme is cricket and the Mondop, the Nat Moncho is the Lord's Pavilion. I knew someone will bring up Saurav Ganguly opening his shirt. Has to. And wife is performing tomorrow. It's only natural that somebody would have done this. Now, story, before I go to Shudipto. So I've done my PhD from the University of Oxford. While doing it, I used to come to the Lord's Library every week, 3 days. And I would see a lot of Indian visitors. In fact, in 1 year, 55,000 visitors visited the MCC Museum and Lord's Library, of which about 60 to 65% were Indians. Okay? So I asked them, why? What's the story? And this gentleman very sheepishly tells me, you know, they ask one question. I'm like, what is the question? Because I was expecting something. He said, come. So he takes me to the Lord's balcony, right there, in front of you is the Lord's balcony. And he says, everybody comes here and tells me, so where did Saurav Ganguly open his shirt? I need a photograph. So this has become an iconic moment. Think about it. He doesn't have a six-pack like Salman Khan. He was a middle-class Bengali who was pleasantly plump, not as me, but pleasantly plump at that point. Shaurabher kono six-pack chilo na. Ekhono nei. Ekhono biryani khai jodiyo bole khai na. So, these are very part of the Ganguly imagery, right? Having said that, that was our Lagan moment that Sanjeev just mentioned, the Saurav Ganguly opening his shirt. Second part, as Ganguly was opening his shirt, You can go to YouTube and check. The other two Indians standing next to, one is Harbhajan Singh, he tells me, मैं बोला मैं भी खोल दूं क्या, मैं भी खोल दूं क्या. VVS Lakshman was pulling mine down, मत खोलो, मत खोलो. But the idea is, you go to Lord's, you break down that bastion of English conservatism and make it your own and appropriate it for an Indian imagery or an Indian imagination that we are proud of. That's when colonialism was overturned on its head. That's what Sanjeev was referring to. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, Sanjeev. Thank you. Shudipto, let's come to the economics of sport. In terms of CSR monies, in terms of job opportunities, how do you look at sport? Can sport sort of pass on as an industry? Can it be an economic vehicle for change, kind of? Shudipto?
Thank you, Boria, and thank you, PBWA, for having us here and giving me the opportunity. Boria, with your permission, we'll make it a little bit interactive with the audience. On boring. So, I think you asked me the question whether sports can generate job opportunities, sports can generate income. I'll come to the CSR part later. But, does anyone in the audience take a guess as to who has been the richest sports person of all times? Anyone in the audience? To answer the question whether it generates income, whether it's, and I'll come to the economics of sport later. Yeah. Okay, Michael Jordan is number 2. In Michael Jordan, obviously his net worth is about $2 billion. Ronaldo is about $1.4 billion. But the most richest sports person of all lived in 145 AD. Yeah, his name was Gaius Diocles, and he was a charioteer in the Roman kingdom. And he won close to some obscene number of chariot races. His winnings were about 26,000 pounds of gold, which at today's valuation would have been worth $13 billion. So Gaius Diocles actually has been the richest sports person of all times. So I thought, to answer your question whether sports, but that's individual glory. I think sports is a very large economic mover in many economies. And if you look at overall data and statistics, sports typically is about 1.5% of a country's GDP, a developed country's GDP. Right? In Brazil, it goes about 2%. It's called the football economy, and a large amount of football drives the economy. But in terms of, and if you see sports is a business these days. In my work, I have been closely associated with very large sports brand as a licensor, where we had licensed the brand, had a good look into way they operate. For example, I have been involved with Manchester United for about 5 years, Ferrari for about 5 years, then off late for last 3 years with the Chennai Super Kings. And what sports has transcended is that though the pinnacle remains sports, sports has become a large metamorphosed into a very organized business or business activity that has got multiple order impacts. The first order impact is obviously entertainment for people, filling up the stadiums, economy, the ticket revenues it generates. The second order impact is basically the hospitality industry that works around the entire sports industry. And the third order impact is basically, for example, if you see in Qatar, $200 billion worth of infrastructure was built. Approximate in any Olympic event, anywhere between $15 to $20 billion of infrastructure spending is done. So that's a third order impact, where supporting sports, a large amount of infrastructure is created. So to answer your question, sports is a very large mover of economic. It generates a lot of jobs. And I think all developed economies and developing economies have sports as one of their main fulcrum businesses. Coming to the answer on CSR, I think the CSR guidelines are very, very clear. Corporates can invest, corporates can give money for CSR activities. In 2016, the definition of what are the activities allowed for CSR under sports were sort of expanded, and basically now corporates can actually invest in every form of sports, right, or every form of sports. So I do believe in our country, many of the corporates are doing it. A lot of the corporates have pushed for, and the fact is we also would want to do, right? You've seen some corporates sponsoring Olympics teams. So I do believe that in going forward, more money inflow into sports. And obviously in India, it's a rising tide is lifting all the sports, not only cricket, but all sports. And we're in for a great days ahead.
I absolutely agree, because if you see the IOC session which happened in your city 5-6 days back, and if you see the Indian Prime Minister making an announcement of the 2029 Youth Olympic Games and the 2036 Olympic Games that India will put in a bid, it shows you that we are gradually becoming a multi-sporting nation. So it's a very, very good answer. Coming to you, Rahul. A film on women's empowerment and cricket against the backdrop of an ICC Men's World Cup. Obstacles, struggle, disability, coming back, coaching, the whole adversity to triumph story. Tell me about Ghumar. What prompted you? How was the challenge? Tell me the story.
I think anything on the face of ICC is a David versus Goliath game. I mean, unless you're Gadar or somebody like that. But even so, because one is a national sentiment, one is a national obsession, and you're trying to break into that with entertainment, obviously you're starting off on the wrong foot. But what we call the arrogance of content is what we were very proud of what we'd done. We didn't think of it as a cricket film versus a cricket event, or a women's event versus a men's event. There was a time to show it to the world, and as few people saw it, or as many people saw it, as inconsequential. But it was a time to celebrate cricket. It was a time to celebrate an athlete with a disability. And we just kind of released it in theaters. And even if it were Mission Impossible, I think ICC World Cup is ICC World Cup. There's no competition there.
I actually think Rahul and his team, except the India Games, managed to beat the ICC World Cup. I actually think you all won that competition, and I'll tell you why. How many medals did India win at the Asian Games, ladies and gentlemen? 107. How many by women, how many by men? How many medals for the women, how many medals for men? 54 women, 53 men. 54 women, 53 men. Rio 2016, how many medals for India? 2. Who are the medalists? PV Sindhu, Sakshi Malik. For the longest time, women athletes have been far better in the annals of sport in India than men. Let's accept it and let's celebrate it. Coming to Ghumar. Coming to a celebration of disability. I consider this audience to be a very erudite audience. It is. And my panelists, how many of you have heard of Murlikant Petkar? I need some hands going up. How many of you have heard of Murlikant Petkar? And that answers Rahul's question, why he did right. No hand going up. How many of you have heard of Kartik Aaryan? No, seriously. How many of you have heard of Kartik Aaryan? All hands going up. Kartik Aaryan is playing Murlikant Petkar in a Kabir Khan film. Okay? Kartik Aaryan is playing Murlikant Petkar in a Kabir Khan film. So who is Murlikant Petkar? 1965 war hero, stays in Pune, 7 bullets, including one which is still lodged in his spinal cord. 7 bullets, one still there. First Indian Paralympic gold medalist in 1972. Celebration of disability, 33 seconds in the freestyle. That's what Rahul and his team did. Takes courage, ladies and gentlemen, not simply about commerce. Rahul, you did well, and that's why we celebrate you this afternoon, this evening. Good job. Follow-up question. How difficult was it?
To do what?
To write what you did and then put it out in the manner that it happened. Were you satisfied? And is it only about audience response?
I don't think anything should be about audience response. If you're writing a theme from your heart, I always wanted to write a sports film. I'm a sports mad person, specifically cricket. And it's my first film. It was utterly difficult. I've been wrote it for about 7 years till we got it pitch perfect right. I don't think anyone writes anything for 7 years in this industry, trying to get it written and rewritten. Between Balki and me, we are both very, very cricket pure enthusiasts. We wanted to shoot it because this country can be very unforgiving if you shoot cricket wrong. You can get away with shooting cricket like, sorry to say it like 83, and that's not cricket. You had to make it look really, really authentic, write it authentically, plus all the human emotion. Everything is difficult when you're doing it. When you finish doing it and you're happy and your family and your friends like it, it just seems utterly easy.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of you have seen Ghumar. You should go and check out Abhishek Bachchan. You should check out Sayami Kher. You should check out what he just said, the reality of cricket, and celebrate Rahul for what he has done. Absolutely wonderful, wonderful effort in terms of what you see on celluloid and art. Sanjeev, coming back to you. This is my second question, which has come from the audience, by the way. Otherwise, I never read questions. Is the society attentive to the benefits of sport? What are these benefits? Is playing sport a meaningful part of life and a driver of tomorrow?
I think I'll echo what Sudhir just mentioned. There's opportunity that sports has created today, right? The entire ecosystem, what we can, in our times it was like you be an engineer or you do a medicine or you do commerce. Today there are kids who are talking about sports physiotherapy. They're getting into health. So the opportunity that the sports has created today is immense. And we have seen success for so many. And it's not just cricket. You look at every sports where we have, progressed over a period of time is phenomenal. So my urgent request to a lot of parents here as well is don't really push them kids to only be doing studying, right? There is so much that they can do with other alternative, careers as well. Sports being one. Look at what Rahul is doing. He's speaking about sports and making a film which is so passionate. He's portraying an individual who's contributed tremendously. So every individual here needs to be looking at it, what's right for me. What is it that the child likes? What is it that the society likes? What is it that we can do from that perspective? So my take of that would be sports provides an opportunity. Sports provides opportunity to work, to do, to contribute, to do the best for yourself and the community all around. And I think the most important, it makes us happy, right? I still play cricket on weekends. I have stuff on my knees, but I do wicket keeping now. All the more reason for me to do that, right? It keeps me agile and it keeps me very focused, right? In Delhi heat, to do a wicket keeping for 40 hours is not a joke. But I do that because it's a sheer passion that it brings to me. Those are the 2 days where I'm relaxed. After that 40 hours of game in the heat, I'm more relaxed actually, right? So it kind of re-energizes yourself to do what you have to do. This is what you love to do. This is other things are what probably you have to do. So ignite your passion and do what you really love to, what you enjoy to do.
A lot of you might just feel that Sanjeev is unreasonable. He must be crazy, what he just said, right? He said he keeps wickets in Delhi heat for about a full game, so he must be unreasonable. You know what the difference is between an unreasonable man and a reasonable man? Anybody? A reasonable man will adapt himself to the ways of the world. He will, and he will get by. A reasonable man will adapt himself to the ways of the world and will get by. But an unreasonable man, Sanjeev, will change the world and make it a better world. That's why I celebrate him. That's the whole difference between being unreasonable and being crazy about sport. And that's what we celebrate. Shudipto, my next question to you, and this was the final one for you from the audience before I ask you from myself. As they say, 11 gods and a billion Indians. Is sport religion, culture, art, recreation, de-stressor? Do you see sport as the new ambassador for art, culture, or social balance?
I think sports is over and above all that. And, it's not about New India. If I go back to my memory, 1983, and frankly, in 1983, I come from a small town in Bengal, Durgapur, and we didn't have television at home. So I still remember that night when, me and my mom, and my father were actually huddled around the radio, right, looking and listening to the commentary of India playing West Indies at that point in time. And frankly, I think in 1983 was an inflection moment for, we were an impoverished nation then, right? It was an inflection moment for the entire country, where actually the entire country started believing that excellence, we can achieve excellence. And the fact is that I had the good fortune of being with Krish Shrikant about 3 weeks back in Barcelona, and both of you were talking. And he is saying, and I asked him that in the movie 1983, whatever you said and whatever is portrayed, is it true? He said, yeah, it's largely true. In fact, when we went there, we really didn't believe that we have any chance. But the fact is that after the Kapil's, knock, something changed in the team and we started believing ourselves. And the fact is that because they started believing in their own ability to perform, they actually inspired 1 billion Indians at that point in time to believe in their future. And post 1991, 93, the liberalization came and we are a different country. So actually I would say the upswing of India actually started from that day when we as a nation started believing in ourselves. And I also, one of my personal favorite movies, and you're talking about sports, how we build a nation, or how it becomes a religion, it becomes something. The most moving story about sport uniting our nation is, I think, and you took the cause of rugby, and that actually immediately took me back to the Springboks versus All Blacks match in the 1985, right, and on which the movie Invictus made. Actually, the modern South Africa is built on that game, where actually Nelson Mandela used that game to unite the apartheid, sort of post-apartheid divide between the blacks and the white, and he used the rugby game to break that down. So in a way, sports is a great uniter. And you spoke about the idea of India. I think sports, when our players play, whether it be it cricket, football, in the Olympics, hockey, I think the nation cheers for them as one. And I think that way sports is a great uniter and the great uplifter of national spirit.
He's right. I mean, absolutely. I mean, Invictus, he spoke about Nelson Mandela. Even before that, when Nelson Mandela was in Robben Island prison, যখন উনি জেলে ছিলেন 27 বছর, 27 साल वो जेल में थे at Robben Island, he used football to break down the resistance of the whites. That's how soccer was used. Football for us was used to break down the resistance or the oppression of the whites. That's a different story. Just one story. I mean, he's talking about 1983, and I was reading behind us, because of this backdrop, you're not able to see it. Behind this backdrop, there's a beautifully written out piece which says, this pandal actually, or this Nat Moncho, talks about the 40th anniversary of the 1983 World Cup win. That's what Shudipto just referred to. And that's what Saurabh Da drew inspiration from when he was there watching the WTC final, from where this pandal came through. Now what happened there? He spoke to Krish Srikanth. What happened there? If you go and ask Kapil Dev today, that did you believe that you could win? And Kapil Dev being Kapil Dev, he will turn to you and say, I was the only guy who actually smuggled 1 bottle of champagne along with me to the dressing room. West Indies had 30 bottles of champagne. I had 1. So I was the only one who actually carried that bottle of champagne with me. By the way, he did not drink champagne. I was seeing Greece and I was seeing the food stalls. And you know what Kapil Dev did soon after India had won and they ran back? They came to the dressing room. You know what Kapil Dev did? He drank a glass of milk. You go and tell him, what did you do? He will tell you, I was so tired, I had a glass of milk. আমি খাবারগুলো দেখছিলাম আমার মনে হচ্ছিল এই গল্পটা আপনাদেরকে বলা দরকার. Rahul, as a creative person, and this is my final question, rather the audience's final question for you before I ask you one from me, is adversity an advantage? Your view and story of innovation in the face of adversity with sport as a backdrop. Can you share your experiences as a creative personality, consistency versus innovation? What is the right balance?
Adversity can never be an advantage. Adversity by definition is a setback. But adversity, the advantage it can create in you is that it basically takes out all your choices. Especially in the case of Ghumar. How can a 200 cricketer ever play cricket who's dreamt of cricket for 20, 25 years? One sudden blow loses one hand. I don't think that person can ever imagine that adversity is an advantage at that point of time. She's devastated. But what adversity can create, if your brain and your body are functioning completely right, is a strange cocktail of motivation. And that motivation defeats average human motivation. I mean, just imagine if you're injured, you walk off the field. But imagine a cricketer who's injured permanently and she has no intent whatsoever to walk off a cricket field. That kind of motivation is rare, and Yeah, that's what makes the film a film worth watching. And what was your second question?
About, the second part was, exact words. I'll give you the exact words. And consistency versus innovation, what is the right balance?
I think you have to be, depends on, let's look at T20. You have to be consistently innovative. You have no choice. You've got players like Sky, etc. Consistency has to go with pretty much everything you're doing. Even if you're doing boring things, like you were taking the example of Virat not eating meat and turning into a very dal chawal, pulses kind of person. That's a boring thing, but it requires consistency. Innovation comes afterwards. Once you've gone through what you've done in the dark consistently, then innovation comes into play, and it can come into play fantastically well. But if you've not done the consistency bit at all, no amount of will or no amount of desire to be innovative will ever help you.
Good one. Good one. I mean, and the one point that stands out for me from that answer is the part on adversity. He said adversity can never be a thing to celebrate. Having said that, it creates opportunities. So I'll tell you two stories here before I go to Rajiv again. He said, and his protagonist in the film loses one hand. How many of you, and today, interesting, very interesting that it all comes together like this. Today is the start of the Asian Para Games in China. I was sitting in this Dell lounge and seeing the opening ceremony of the Asian Para Games on social media. And I was thinking of my friend Devendra Jhajaria. By the way, at the age of 8, Devendra Jhajaria went to a celebration like this, lost a hand because of electrocution. ইলেকট্রিকের তারে একটা হাত কেটে বাদ দিতে হয় এক হাত उनका चला गया था as a result of electrocution. Devendra Jhajaria went home and for a month did not step out of his house. He would cry every day. Any of us would, right? Because if you go home, all of a sudden you've lost a hand, you are very, very apprehensive, you are very depressed, you don't want to go out. And his mother, coming back to Swayam Siddha, his mother told him, you're not less to anybody. Just go out there and try sport. So he goes to school and he sees others doing the javelin. And he says, मुझे भी खेलना है. And the teachers tell him, नहीं नहीं तुमको क्या खेलना है, तुम साइड में जाके बैठ जाओ, तुमको नहीं खेलना है, तुमको javelin कैसे खेलोगे, तुम्हारा तो एक हाथ नहीं है. He said, नहीं बाकी सबको खेल लेने दीजिए, उसके बाद मैं खेल लेता हूँ. He said, ठीक है, बाकी सबको खेल लेने दो, उसके बाद तुम फेंको. All of them in school, they threw about 45 odd meters. Devendra Jhajaria, by the way, his mother, he was a farmer's son. His mother had told him, यार तू किसान का बेटा है तो क्या कर, पेड़ काट के एक javelin बना और यहाँ पे घर में फेंका कर और practice कर. So Devendra Jhajaria throws in school 48 point something meters, wins it hands down. And his teacher was like, what the hell is going on? And Devendra Jhajaria, fast forward, 2004, goes to the Athens Olympic Games. And there he tells me, Dada, I see the Chinese coming in with, not only the Chinese, I see the Westerners coming in with physiotherapists, sports science, A, B, C. And I'm like, and they're training with a thing called TheraBand, which is training equipment. And he says, ye kya hai? And they tell him, this is a TheraBand. He said, TheraBand se kya hota hai? He said, shoulder ka exercise hota hai. He said, mere paas to ye sab cheez hai nahi, main to kabhi life mein suna hi nahi. To main kya karu? He comes back home, goes to his village, takes an axe and starts cutting a tree. Every time he cuts a tree, TheraBand, shoulder exercise, 500 times a day, the Indian word jugaad. Devendra Jhajaria, Athens gold. That, ladies and gentlemen, are stories that adversity brings about. And the final one, I was interviewing this lady called Dr. Rachna. Look her up. And she's got 7 spinal cord surgeries done in the spate of 1 year. And I tell her, how on earth did you manage? And she said, you know what, sir? After this, I thought I need to give back to society. So I went and completed my MBBS. And now I'm a doctor. And I thought, I need to prove to the world I can do it. At one point, मैं plank करता था और वो plank में ना 4 सेकंड के ज़्यादा मैं कर नहीं पाती थी. अभी मेरा record है, world record in plank, 2 hours 29 minutes, 7 spinal cord surgeries.
Amazing.
Rahul just immortalized all of this, what I'm talking about on celluloid with Ghumar. Let me go to Rajiv on a coaching question. This is for Rajiv. Coaching is a stimulant of a progressive society, Rajiv. Talent spotting and coaching and development really institutionalized now, and rewarding given the breadth and demographics of our country. Your thoughts on this? If you want to write it, you can write it while I tell them a story, and I'll repeat the question for you. Coaching is the stimulant. Coaching is the stimulant of progressive society. Talent spotting and coaching and development really institutionalized and rewarding given the breadth and diversity of our country. So if you could give me that answer. One quick story as Rahul writes it. You know, behind me, as I said again, just ekhan theke jodi jaan, eikhan theke jaben, thik ache? Ei pechontate, there is that board. The ladies there are taking some photographs there. That's when the 1983 description is there, okay? That 40th anniversary and this pandal and mandap and all of this. And it's part of our memory now, 1983. Sunil Gavaskar, one of our favorites, all-time favorites. I've got to tell you this story, it's Mumbai. So Mr. Gavaskar and I come out of the Lord's dressing room of the, he comes out of the media box next to, and both of us walk to the Lord's shop. So we walk to the Lord's shop, we buy some stuff, and we walk out. All of a sudden, a gentleman comes and looks at Mr. Gavaskar and says, "Sir, pehchan pa rahe hain?" And Mr. Gavaskar looks at him and like, "Nahi." He said, "Sir, aapko 1983 yaad hai?" He said, "Arey kya keh rahe ho yaar? 1983, of course." He said, "Aap jab bhag rahe the," stop. 1983, just go and watch the last ball, and you have that DRS screen there, it's being shown there. So the ball, when the wicket is given, the umpire gives it out, the ball rolls to gully. Mr. Gavaskar picks up the ball, puts it in his pocket and starts running. Okay? Because he has the ball. And he starts running towards the pavilion. All of a sudden, Mr. Gavaskar tells me, I could feel somebody's hand in my pocket trying to do a pickpocket. Pocket mar. Trying to do a pickpocket from my hand, do a pickpocket from my thing for the ball. And Mr. Gavaskar held that person's hand and kept running. After about 20 meters, that man said to him, "Mujhe ball nahi chahiye, mera haath chhod dijiye." 2014, 40 years later, this man says, "Sir, main wahi aadmi hu jiska haath aapke pocket mein tha." So that's what sport does. Sport creates memories. Sport brings us all together. Sports makes this pandal and this incredible pujo possible. Well done, Powai. Yes, if you are ready with your answer, Rajiv. Okay, coaching and its role in society. Stimulant for progress, coaching acts as a catalyst for personal and societal development. Talent identification, crucial for spotting and nurturing potential in individuals. Institutionalized development, formalizing coaching programs establishes structured pathways for growth. Acknowledging and addressing the diverse range of skills and backgrounds within the country. Inclusivity and accessibility, something we were talking about. Ensuring coaching opportunities are accessible to all, contributing to a more inclusive society. Spot on. Spot on.
I also want to say this.
There's a, okay. Rajiv also wants to say at the outset, and I'm reading this, at the outset, my sincere apologies for not being able to speak at this prestigious event. No question of apology. We are graced by your presence. Thank you very much. On behalf of PB Fintech Limited, Policy Bazaar and Paisa Bazaar, I would like to wish you all a very happy Durga Pujo. Same to you and the family. It was such a pleasure to hear from the office bearers about the kind of work they do to support the underprivileged. Hats off to all of you, and I salute each one of you for your commitment to such a noble cause. We echo the same sentiment on behalf of this panel. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, Rajiv, for this beautiful statement. Okay, I have been given a hard stop at 8:45, so I've got 20, 25 more minutes. I'll go for 10 odd minutes, 10, 15 more minutes, and then I will take some questions from the audience. So plan your questions. You can go for any of my panelists. Rahul, next one. Is another sport film going to happen?
I hope many more sports films are going to happen.
As in, will you do one?
100%, 100%. Personally, sports is something I know. I cannot do a Karan Johar film. So, honestly, I would love to make one more sports film. I don't know if the next one, but at least one more.
Any particular sport? I mean, I ask because there's so much going on in the realm.
I mean, now India is doing so well in so many sports. It would be ignorant. I wouldn't say lazy. It would be stupid to ignore the sports that India is doing well. Films need sports as much as sports needs publicizing. You cannot create a champion unless there is a little bit of glamour associated with that sport. In that, I think films and sports should be symbiotic.
I think he's right. I think he's right. We can come to that. Sudipto, when you invest in sport, you follow sport, you meet people, what are the kind of leadership lessons that you learn? Because you invoke all of that in corporate life on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. I think it's a very, very interesting question. And the fact is that the first, see, typically sports persons are persons who are eulogized, have a larger than life figure. And the fact is that one of the important qualities, whichever leader I see, is the most important quality I look for is humility. When a billion people, or a more, in case for some footballers, right, or like for example for tennis, billions and people, I think the really successful sports icons actually demonstrate this particular quality of humility much better than anything else. And some of them are so normal and down to earth and approachable. And I'll give you a small story, right? Because it's all about stories, right? So when I was in Deutsche Bank, Gavaskar was like one of our brand ambassadors. So we had an event in Grand Hyatt, and I was standing at the porch of Grand Hyatt waiting to, and Gavaskar, as you know, is an extremely down-to-earth, approachable person. You talk to him for 10 minutes and you feel like you have known him for life. So I was standing on the porch, and suddenly I feel someone straightening my coat jacket from behind. So obviously when I had worn it when I was leaving, I turn around and see Gavaskar straightening my coat jacket from behind. So the fact is that, humility is something which is, some sports people, I have seen some sports people, I not name them, but lose their marbles when they become big. But the one real takeout that I always take from sports people, or like, for example, Federer. Roger Federer is another example of a person who is really humble and down to earth. So I think this is one quality that I look for, and this is one quality I try to imbibe in myself.
Fantastic. And tomorrow you have Dona Ganguly coming, right? So my story of humility from sports, Saurav Ganguly. So 2014, we were in England. My daughter was 3 months old. So I had this temerity and audacity to take a 3-month-old kid while covering the 2014 cricket tour. So obviously, as you can understand, it was difficult. It was challenging for my wife and for me. And we were coming back from Nottingham and actually driving back to London. And Saurav asked me, so how will you go? I said, I'll book a taxi and go. And he said, what do you mean? I'm driving, just come with me. I said, are you mad? Just go. He said, just don't talk nonsense. Come with me and don't be stupid. So he drove us back, and once we were entering London, I said, Dekho, tumi tomar jekhane jaccho jao, just drop me at an underground station and I will manage. He said, no, I can't do that. I said, absolutely you do that. Drop me at an underground station and go. Because he was going the other side. So he stood at an underground station, and all of a sudden, he parks his car, and I see him coming out of the car. I said, what are you trying to do? He said, Dekho, your daughter is here. Oi poucher moddhe amar meye amar buke ekhane chilo. Amar stree ekta suitcase carry korchilo. She was carrying one suitcase. Saurav carried the other suitcase and my child's bag, walked us down to the underground station to the train. He had his Oyster card so he could come in. Till the time the train came, he stood there. Once the train came, he put us inside and he said, I hope you will be able to manage this. This is what leaves a mark. It is not about who you are. It is about the human traits. For me, who has studied sport for a living for 30 years, it is about human emotion. And that's why this Pujo draws you so much. When I see the faces and they go right up to that no exit sign, I see happy faces. Faces which tell me that each one of you coming to this pandal, jara bhog khete aschilen, each one of you are happy, and that's what sport leaves you with. Sanjeev, question. Are you hopeful? I mean, when our Prime Minister talks about hosting an Olympic Games, do Do you think sport can bring about fundamental change in this country? Because clearly Delhi, 1951 Asian Games changed, 1982 Asian Games, Delhi changed, 2036 Olympic Games, do you think it can be India's games and we can change as a society?
No, absolutely. And as I mentioned earlier, right, we have challenged so many status quo. You're doing that. And sports, I strongly believe, gets people together. Economically as well, as you mentioned, right, there are so many ecosystems that works together to build that up. It brings people together. It takes India to the world. Right? People are looking at what we are doing today. They look upon us. So in every aspect of any events for that matter, big or small, what you do, there are some impact that we are doing, right? You see in the media and entertainment, there are so many of them, singers who have come from Russia and are singing in Hindi. A Lata Mangeshkar song, the passion that they bring in, the kind of encouragement that we have brought to some of these people is tremendous. Look at what is Afghanistan team doing today. They've been part of IPL. And today they are forced to record. It's just a matter of time where they will be a very strong team. So what we are doing is we are not just building up, getting people together. We are influencing. We're creating that positivity in them. Today, no better words. Today, the, De Villiers, there'll be rarely any country where he walks in trying to be competing against us and the country's cheering for him. Right? There are cricketers who have named the child, I think it's Ravindra and even Warner, right? He's named his daughter India. Now that's the impact that we are creating across the globe. And it can't get better. And I think we are just starting. We're just starting.
I think that the David Warner example is fantastic. If you go and ask David and Candice, his wife, that what has India done to you? And they will tell you that during COVID, they used to dance to these South Indian dance forms, and that brought the family together. David is a very close friend of mine, one of my best friends, and that's why I know this. Because I know David, Candice, and the girls. He mentioned Indy, Ivy, Indy, and the daughters. They are half Indian. You go to their Sydney household, every third day is an Indian meal. Absolutely phenomenal guy, and look at his popularity in Hyderabad. There's an incredible picture of an 85-year-old lady watching David Warner score that 100 day before. That's what India does to you. He mentioned Lata Mangeshkar. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, just to add, right? The other day he hit a century. What did he do? His action was this Pushpa thingy, right? So the kind of influence we have created is amazing. In a center stage like a World Cup, he does those actions that, it's so close to us. So it's those smaller things that matters in terms of the influence that we are creating.
Absolutely. He did the Pushpa, and that's, by the way, he's not doing it for a show. It's very organic for David Warner. If you know David Warner, and I know David Warner personally, I can tell you it's very organic for David Warner. He mentioned Lata Mangeshkar. Again, 1983. Apna theme, aap logo ka theme. 1983, you know what? After the Indian victory, Raj Singh Dungarpur at that point in time, all of us know Raj Singh Dungarpur had an affair with Lata Mangeshkar, which did not culminate in marriage, but it was the longest serving love affair in Indian cricket. Now, Raj Singh Dungarpur went to the Indian dressing room and mentioned to the players that we will give you a cash award. And they said, how much money? He said, a couple of thousand rupees. Mr. Gavaskar turned and said, aisa mat kariye. Don't give us such money because that is not necessary. If you want to give us something tangible. BCCI did not have money. It is not the same BCCI. So what Raj Singh Dungarpur did was went and asked Lata Mangeshkar, can you perform for our cricketers? 18th of August 1983, the Freedom Concert was done in Delhi. 1.5 lakh rupees to each cricketer, thanks to Lata Mangeshkar. That's the story. 2013, Lata ji would love me. Sachin introduced the two of us. I was writing his biography. Sachin's last test match, I called Lata ji and I said, are you watching? She said, absolutely, come to my house. So I went to her house and she was sitting in front of the television set with an iPad and was flipping the iPad like this. You know what the iPad had? She had taken photographs of Sachin from the screen and was showing me all of the pictures saying, ye mera beta hai. That is what sport does. That's what he's talking about. Unbelievable. I know you're finding it hard. One question, you can again write it if you want. But one sports icon, men, woman, female, men, whatever, who's inspired you and why? That's the last set of questions for my panelists. And it's 8:31. I will open it up. Rahul, you go first.
one sports icon who has inspired me.
And why?
It's a really tough question. One.
No, you can say many. You can give me multiple also, no problem.
I'll give one because he's really stood out when I was really, really into cricket, and he stood out in a time of legends, and that's Dravid. And of course, Dravid for sheer talent and can never match Sachin. Sachin is the champion of champions, or at least of my generation. All of you will probably say Virat Kohli. But I had never ever, and I've worked with Dravid closely on many, many ads we did together. We discussed Glenn McGrath's bowling also. We were that he's Rahul and I'm Rahul. That helped. But I have never met a man who's so biryani in talent and so sambar chawal as a personality. He's so fantastic a guy to speak to. He has, we have both flown together from Bangalore to Mumbai, and thanks to him, I think I got my first upgrade because he said, "Oh, Rahul is sitting behind. Can you please ask Rahul to come and sit next to me on a flight?" And we discussed the progression of hockey in this country. And I have no clue about hockey. I completely punted it for 1.5 hours to fly with him. And I genuinely have not met a man so simple, courteous, polite, parent-loving, educated. His parents told him, first you finish your education before you can start playing Ranji. And he did it. And he could have exactly gone against it. And I'm not saying parents should say study first, play later. But in this case, his parents did. And in this case, he obeyed it. And he tells the story proudly. Fantastic guy, my icon.
No reason why not. And to add to his story, you go and ask Rahul Dravid, when you played the sport, what made you the most unhappy? Ask this question. I will ask Rahul to ask Rahul this question when he meets him the next time. You know what Rahul Dravid will tell you? He'll say, if I got 100, or if I got out for 0 rather, I would be unhappy. For sure, I've got out for a 0. But that wouldn't make me the most unhappy. What would make me the most unhappy is if I dropped a catch, because I was actually making someone else unhappy. That was for the team. The 100 was more me. I can take that pain. By dropping a catch, I was letting my colleague down. That made me the most unhappy. Rahul Dravid, icon to Rahul Sengupta. Sanjeev, icon and why?
I'm going to go with 2. One is obviously big cricket fan, so Mahendra Singh Dhoni. He's shown that humbleness that we have seen on the field. He's got the team together. He's done everything with a lot of passion. He seems to be a very family man as well. And he's done everything which I would look at it saying, every aspect of what he's done, I try to see if that has impact on me, for sure. And the other sportsman is Roger Federer. He mentioned it. I mean, just look at him, the graceful way he does, the kind of passion, the love, the affection that he brings into the smile that he brings into the audience every time he walks in. That is amazing. He walks out, people have tears in his eye. They want more of him. That's my biggest regret in my life. I've seen, Australian Open, I've seen US Open, I've seen French Open, but I miss Wimbledon. I was wanting to go this time, last time as well, but I just couldn't. So my biggest regret in my life is not watching him play. But he is just an absolutely incredible, icon for me.
Both solid ones. Shripto, you can go with a woman also. Huh? Both have gone with men.
Mine, unfortunately, is a man. So one of my icons, actually, this was when I was young also, and when I was growing up also, was Michael Schumacher. So, I think, and I used to love cars. As a youngster, I used to love cars, and I used to love fast cars. My room in my house was full of all F1 car photographs. And the fact is that the ice coldness, it's a tough sport. It's an extremely tough sport, and it's a dangerous sport. But the fact is that the precision with which actually he drove himself, and the fact is that it's not known, but Michael Schumacher at point in time used to practice on his simulator blindfold, just to make sure that, especially for the Monaco circuit, right? So he used to do that. So I guess that's what I think, one of the things which I took from him was the pursuit towards excellence. How you have to be, you have to continuously at it. Even after if you have won 4 or 5 Grand Prix, right, it's not over. And he used to continuously push himself. I think that continuous drive and push is something which I sort of took as an inspiration. It's such a sad story for such an illustrious man.
He mentioned Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Mahendra Singh Dhoni and I had lunch 2-3 months after the 2019 World Cup. Very relevant because we are playing New Zealand today. And this was in Delhi. So we had finished a program together and he said, "Aap kya kar rahe hain?" I said, 2-3 घंटा बाद मेरा कोलकाता का flight है, मैं निकल रहा हूँ. He said, "नहीं, room में आइए, एक साथ lunch करके जाइए." So I go to his room and he was sitting with his iPad and sort of flipping pictures. So I said, "What are these?" He said, come, sit here." So we sat together and he says, "ये photographs किसी ने देखा नहीं, आप देखिए." And these are, out in the wilderness, in green, everywhere, forest kind of. I said, "ये है क्या?" He said, "आप लोग जानते नहीं हो, मैं ना वर्ल्ड कप के बाद सो नहीं पा रहा था. और मैं हर समय जब सोने जा रहा था, मुझे यही लग रहा था कि जब वो रन में ले रहा था, वो मार्टिन गप्टिल थ्रो, आई वुड टेल माई सेल्फ, हैड आई डाइव्ड वो 2 इंच मैं पहुंच जाता. बट पूरा करियर में कभी डाइव नहीं किया. आई वॉज बैकिंग माई सेल्फ टू डाइव. सो वॉट आई डिड वॉज, आई वेंट टू द इंडियन आर्मी टू गेट द स्ट्रेस ऑफ माई हेड. सो हियर आई वॉज नॉट MS Dhoni. I was Lieutenant number 34. I had to do that to take the stress away, to become a normal human being again, and that's what MS Dhoni did. I can keep going on and on about Michael Schumacher and Roger Federer. Roger Federer and I, thanks to Sachin Tendulkar, but one story. Roger Federer in Wimbledon tells me only one time when people have not screamed Roger, Roger, and have screamed Sachin, Sachin is when the two of them stood together at SW19. That tells you about Sachin. Okay? Rajiv, your answer. Interesting. And there I have a woman, PT Usha. She was the first to inspire many in my generation. Nobody ever thought we would have an athlete making India proud. That too at a time when there was no support or facilities for the field athletes. A self-made woman indeed. It is sheer passion and comment to prove to the world what an Indian can do and what women are capable of doing from India. I guess that was the foundation that she laid, which has led Indian women to lead from the front. Fascinating. And 1984, ladies and gentlemen, Cristina Coicaru of Romania became a national traitor when she thrust herself that little iota of a second in front of PT Usha. So aren't we glad that she's actually leading the Olympic movement in India today as the president and the first president as an athlete of the Indian Olympic Association. Thank you very, very much, Rajiv, for that. My own, and I'll open it up. I've had the opportunity of meeting with sports people all my life because that's what I do. But this guy is half my age. I'm 47, he's 24. And I think he's India's greatest ever athlete already and will be. And you know why? After Abhinav Bindra won his gold medal, I asked him, what was it like? He said, I was in depression. I said, why? He said, because for 14 years, I was chasing something. All of a sudden, I had that in my pocket, the Olympic gold medal. I did not have anything more to chase. I was in depression. It took me 2 years to come out of it. I understood what he meant. I asked the same question of this man after he won the gold medal in Tokyo 2021. And I said, you've got everything. You're 23 years old, Neeraj Chopra. You're world champion, Commonwealth champion, Asian Games champion, Olympic champion. You're the greatest Indian athlete. He said, sir, mat boliye. I said, क्यों? He said, Michael Phelps ने 26 gold medal जीता है. मैंने 1 जीता है. 2-3 जीतने दीजिए. उसके बाद बोलिएगा, I am the greatest Indian athlete. That's what makes Neeraj Chopra to me my singular sports icon. On that note, on behalf of all my panelists, Rahul, Sanjeev, Shudipto, and of course Rajiv, and to all of you, open it up for questions. We've got 6-7 minutes, so 3 questions. Show up the first one. Can we have a microphone? Take this.
Quickly about leader and the captain. The story on leader and the captain. Boria, the other day you were talking about leader and the captain. In the corporate world, it's for you, for sports, and for them in the corporate world.
Anyone wants to take it? I can take it. Okay? Okay, leadership and captaincy. I will give you one anecdote because this is an evening of stories. 2011 World Cup, because it's the Cricket World Cup time. 2011 World Cup, India versus Pakistan in Mohali. One of the greatest ever matches in the history of cricket in terms of intensity, 35.2 television rating. Next morning in Mohali, I had breakfast, and all of a sudden I see in that corner Gary Kirsten sitting, who was India coach at that point in time, having his papaya and his mangoes. So I walked up to Gary, who's a good friend of mine, and I said, "Kya team banaya? What team have you made? Incredible team." And he's having his fruit, and all of a sudden he sort of puts his fork down and looks at me and he says, "You think all of these people are friends?" And I'm like, "What?" He says, "You know, all of these people you're talking about, do you think all of them are friends?" And I'm like, he says, "Look, each one of them are super achievers with superhuman egos. I don't care whether they go out for a social meal together or go out with each other's wives and celebrate with kids. All I'm bothered about is when that last catch goes up, all of the 14 members in that team should pray that catch should be taken for India. That's leadership, that's team spirit, that's bonding, and that's all I want. I don't care whether Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli are friends, whether Ritika and Anushka Sharma are friends. All I care for is when the two of them play for India, they play for India and that bleed blue. I don't care whether Policy Bazaar employees are friends, but when they present Policy Bazaar, they represent Policy Bazaar and stand up for that brand. I don't care whether all of you are friends at the Bengali society here in Powai, but when you stand up for this Durga Pujo, this is what you've put together. I don't care what you are friends for. This is leadership. This is what I learned from sport." Other questions, please? 2, 3 more. Yes. Yes, Shantanu. Yes.
I had two questions actually. The first one for Boria. Who's your idol in the sports world and why?
I said that for Neeraj Chopra, but if you ask me that, I'll give a female, a woman as well, because I wanted to. What is the second one?
The second one is more for the panelist. It seems to be probably a bit of a unique event, right in the middle of a stage, in a venue like this with the pandal and the Devi behind you. Do you think these kind of events really matter?
Sanjeev, why don't you take that? Sanjeev, Shudipto, both of you, take that.
Sorry, can you come again?
Does this kind of event matter when you have the goddess behind you, you've got a crowd like this on an Ashtami night? Do these kind of events have relevance?
We'll be able to make that change in the society with all that what we're doing.
Yeah, so this kind of events matter because, you know, these days, everyone suffers from ADHD. Everyone keeps on looking at the mobile phone like this and like this. Events like this provide at least that opportunity for people to look up from their phones and sort of assimilate something which is a discussion about relevance of sports to society and a relevance of sports to, and a cultural event like this to the wider sphere. So obviously it matters. And you know, this evening has been one of the most enjoyable evenings that I've had in the last 6 months, being honest.
That's a lie. Anyway.
Thank you.
No, I think all these events matter. In fact, any gathering matters. If you can influence even one person in this organization to do well, I think that's important, right? If you can do that, I think it's given the returns. The time that I've spent here, or all of us here, or the entire crowd, if we can influence one person, I think that matters a lot. And I think that's why these events are very, very important.
That's a very, very good answer. Why don't you take that? Yeah, go for it.
I think the most, when you compare, let's say I'm comparing this Durga Pujo with cricket. I've not spoken a word of Bengali, which is very, very, I should apologize for. Khub kharap amar Bangla. But between Durga Pujo and cricket, I'm making an analogy, and cricket at different levels. A cricket team of 11 is a community. And a cricket team that plays in the goli, maybe community X or M or N. And the cricket team that plays for India is community of excellence number 1. They are driven by one goal. Like he's saying, when that catch goes up, or in whichever way, win for India, play for India, bleed for blue, whatever. A community is probably the most important thing for a civil society. And a community which has a common goal. It could be to have fun, it could be to bow to Ma Durga, it could be to go have puchka, whatever it is. Or to have things like you guys have when you were talking inside. a community with a goal and a community doing that day in, day out is no less than a cricket team trying to win for India every day.
Fascinating. He asked me about, I'll take yours, sir. I've just been given a 5-minute extension, so I'll stop at 8:50 instead of 8:45. Okay, I will take one question here, but I don't want this to be a gendered question. There's a lady there, I will take hers. So I'll take yours, sir, I'll take hers. So 2 questions. Was that a question? I don't think it was. Okay, was it a question, ma'am? Was it a question? It wasn't. Okay, I want a question from, yes, before you ask your question, sir, I'll quickly answer what Shantanu asked me about my icon. Now let me do something. I just met this lady, Razia, some time back. Ma'am, can you just come up to this in front of the stage? Just come here. Sorry, I'm making you do this. Apologies. So she just got up. She came here. My apologies. Ma'am, now you can go back and sit down. Why did I do this? So I requested her humbly to stand up, walk 10 feet, 6 feet, and she did very simply, right? Each one of you can do that. And that brings me to my story. 1999, a certain Deepa Malik, who had a spinal cord tumor, went to her doctors and was told that you will have to get operated upon, and the operation precondition is, after this operation, you will never walk again. You will never walk again, or you can die. So she went into the operation theater knowing she could die, or she would never walk again. So for the next 7 days, when she was getting ready to live the life of a paralyzed. She had a 2-year-old daughter and a 4-year-old daughter. 23 and a half hours in coma, 183 stitches, chest down, paralyzed. 14 years later, at the Rio 2016 Games, first silver medal for India in Paralympics. That's what iconicity is all about, Shantanu. That's what iconicity is. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Boria. In fact, I'm a great fan of yours. My question is, we talked a lot about sports, about the success story. In fact, you just mentioned about the Dhoni. I wanted to ask you that Virat Kohli also shared about how he handled depression. Any story which you know, which is worth sharing, so that, because we have seen only positive side of the sports person, we'd like to know how they cope up with the stress.
Fantastic question, and one of the best questions that is close to my heart. What has sport taught me? One lesson. What has sport taught me? Sport has taught me how to fail. It is okay to be not okay, ladies and gentlemen. It is okay to be not okay. আমাদের না প্রবলেম হয় মেন্টাল হেলথ নিয়ে কথা বলতে অসুবিধা হয়। আপনার পায়ে লেগেছে, আপনি ডাক্তারের কাছে গিয়ে বলবেন আমার পায়ে লেগেছে, I've got a knee pain, আমার মাথায় জ্বর এসছে, আমি গিয়ে জ্বরটা দেখিয়ে বলবো I've got 102 temperature, I've got fever. That's natural. The moment I say I've got a mental issue, mentally I'm not well, people will say, oh, you are unstable. No, sir. That's only natural. Anxiety is natural. Stress is natural. Just like this dhak is also natural. Sport has taught me how to fail. Sport has taught me it is okay to be not okay. To answer that question, I have gone through several such instances, and the one I will tell you is Abhinav Bindra. 2014, he and I were together, and all of a sudden in a program, his hand starts shaking like this. 2 years later, the man competed in an Olympic Games. His hand was shaking like this, and my gaze went to him. And I said, what on earth is going on? Your hand is shaking. He's a shooter. And he looks at me and he says, come to my room. And I go to his room and he says, pause, I've got epilepsy. A shooter has epilepsy and went on to fight an Olympic final 2 years later with depression, with body ailment, with everything. Sport teaches you how to fail. And my final statement for tonight, you know what sport teaches us? What sport allows you to do? No day is perfect, not even today, which is a great night. It can't be perfect. But let us try to be perfect on an imperfect day. Because if we try to be perfect in an imperfect day and fight for that decisive 1%, you will end up be the better version of yourself. It is not about records broken, sir. Not about medals won. Not about matches won. It is about being better versions of ourselves, better human beings, creating a better India and a better Durga Pujo. Thank you very much. Final one. Anybody from the audience, a lady? We didn't get one from a lady. Anybody? Or I'll close this evening. I'll close this evening thanking my panelists and call Shantanu and Saurabh back on stage. A lady for a question? Anyone? Do I not have one? Someone? Yes, ma'am. Okay, let's have one from you. Okay? You? You don't want to? Anybody else? Come on, give me a question. Yes, ma'am. Beautiful. There she is. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, and thank you very much for allowing me to go backstage and do the pujo. So I appreciate her help as well. Bolun.
This is for Rajiv. Rajiv, you said that talent has to be spotted. And also, nowadays, there's dearth of talent available everywhere, right? And similarly in case of sports as well. Now, my question to you is that there's a wide pool of talent available in information technology, in fintech, in your world as well. What's that you do to identify the talent? That's the question that I have.
I get Saurabh and Shantanu on stage. By that time, Rajiv will write that answer and I'll read it out to you. But till then, ladies and gentlemen, it is not easy to be patient for 1.5 hours when you have the India cricket match on, when you have Devi Durga behind us, when you have all these food stalls. I did not see mobile phones. I did not see this audience switching off. So on behalf of all my panelists, Rahul, Sanjeev, Shudipto and myself, a sincere thank you to each one of you. Thank you for bearing with us, and what a wonderful pujo. Yes, back to you, Shantanu.
Thank you. Thank you, Boria. Thank you once again. There's not much I can express to thank this audience, and Boria, it's been a wonderful evening. We are really happy the way you've been able to integrate the evening, our philosophy into all the discussions. While we invite Saurabh to give us this opening, his closing remarks. We also have a couple of our Mission Shine Shuddha who are the members of the Shine Shuddha. They are the ladies who've been with us. They're the ladies who've been trained. They are the ladies with the long gungat, and now a part of the educated, part of the mature society. Thank you. Please come on stage. This small memento from MSS. आप जाने के पहले एक फोटो लेना है. Can I request Joyati to also come on stage, please, for the photo?
You need a mic.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'll quickly answer the question that Madhumita asked. Talent is around us everywhere. Talent is around us everywhere. People are looking for opportunities, and we are PB FinTech Group work with colleges from tier 2 and tier 3 cities and run customized modules at the end of which we hire most of them. We promote diversity and today employ 45% women.
Thank you.
Hello. So lastly, I thank each one of you, and we have a spellbinding evening today. I hope you all enjoyed this divine innings moment in Powai Sarvajanin Durgotsav. Thank you so very much, Boria, you enthralled us. And each one of you, sir, Rahul, Sanjeev, Shudipto, Raju. Thank you, each one of you. I hope you enjoyed it.
Please meet us at the lounge, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you. Thank you.
Now please join us for our next set of